topic that we're talking about today is Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. I say Ehlers, probably some people say Ehlers. I don't really know. And I will be referring to it mostly as EDS, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. This is going to be a little bit the idea. We're going to be talking about what is EDS, what does that mean. Then we're going to be talking about the symptoms. When should you be worried? I always call it, because that's always like the thing. You see something, you read about it, and you think, oh no, I have this, but it's never like that. What causes EDS? How do we diagnose it? What are the treatments? And support groups should also be in this PowerPoint. Before I explain to you guys what EDS is, you need some vocabulary. One of the things you need to know is it involves skin. Everyone knows what skin is. That's easy. It involves tissue. And normally everyone should know what tissue is, but if you don't, it's basically everything that your body is made of. You know, you have skin tissue, you have hard tissue, you have muscle tissue, you have, basically everything that certain organs or parts of your body are made of. That is tissue. Joints, not the ones that you smoke. Joints basically are, how are you supposed to say that? Wrists, elbows, knees, ankles, those are joints. Joints are the parts of your body that can move, or that put you in an ability to move. That's why you can put your arm up because of your shoulder joint, but you can't move this part of your arm because it's got like one big bone in it and you can't like bend it, Basically anything in your body that you can bend. And hyper is everything that is too much. Everyone knows what hyperactive is. Woo, okay? So everything that is too much. This is your base vocabulary. If you understand this, everything's gonna be easy peasy. Okay, so basically really important to know is that in EDS you have a problem with connective tissue, okay? So it's a type of tissue, and connective tissue basically means everything that connects one part of your body to the other part of your body. Connective tissue lies basically everywhere, but the most known one is in your skin, and it was also the easiest to explain it a little bit. So if you would take your skin and you put it under a microscope, this is basically what you would see. This is the outside of your skin, and then you have like different layers. Here you have your fat layer. This is a bit thicker in some people than other people. And in between your fat layer and the upper parts of your skin lays your connective tissue. You can see your connective tissue actually as a kind of like a network of wires, and you can kind of understand that the faster these wires are intertwined, the harder it is to put to make it like flexible, So if you have something that is intertwined really hard, it's going to be hard to pull them out, So it's going to be like strong connective tissue. But if it's like a little bit woven together and you can you put like some pressure on it or so, it's easier, they slide harder. For example, your skin doesn't have, it has connective tissue, but the older you get, the less connective tissue you have, and that's why you have like very frail skin in older people. Then this is actually the definition. EDS is the term used for a group of 13 relatively rare genetic disorders of connective tissue that are characterized by one or another of several features, including skin hyperextensibility, joint hypermobility, or tissue fragility. So basically what you really need to understand is EDS is inherited most of the time. So you get it from, it's a genetic disorder, so you get it mostly from first-line relatives, so mom, dad, and stuff like that. Think of connective tissue as glue. It's holding everything in your body together, your muscles, your bones, your organs, everything. But in EDS, this glue is not as strong as it's supposed to be. It's kind of like gum. So it's literally more elastic, okay? And that causes a variety of problems in basically it's kind of like a systemic disease because it causes problems like basically everywhere in your body. And there are 13 types who are kind of the same but very different, like it always is in medicine. It's always like that. These are the 13 types. It's really like doctors are the least original people. So you have classical EDS, classical-like EDS, cardiac valvular, vascular, hypomobile, and then like some other names that are like totally not in the scope of this presentation. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to focus a little bit on hypermobile EDS, which is EDS type 3. It is one of the most common forms of EDS, together with classical EDS, and the rest is kind of like a bit more rare. But just know that there are a lot of difficult names. You don't have to know them all. If you know that there is a type 1, 2, and 3, and that there are 13 different types, that's like a lot more than the regular person knows, okay? There are two things that are sometimes confused within the medical world as well, because we get referred. You have the hypermobility spectrum and you have EDS, okay? You could be hypermobile and not have EDS, but when you have EDS, you're mostly hypermobile. Hypermobility actually occurs in people that do not have any type illness. Actually, a lot of young females, children growing up, adolescents, they have hypermobility they just have hypermobility syndrome. So mostly they suffer from hypermobile joints, so they can like do really weird stuff with their, you know, they can like put their pink up here or so, or their thumb, like I can do that a little bit. No, I can't. You know, they can do really crazy stuff, and that seems really cool because you can do all of these things, or for some people really creepy, but it has one downside, and that is that most of these people, because their joints are hypermobile, they kind of like suffer from chronic fatigue, so they're tired all the time because there's a lot of energy that is going into keeping all of those joints together. And sometimes because of the hypermobility, they suffer from chronic severe pain. EDS is mostly a genetic disorder, genetic diagnosis, like you have to do genetic testing in order to say, okay, you have EDS, unless you have EDS type 3, which is the hypermobility type EDS. I put like a little picture up there for the hyperflexible joints. What is normal, what is not normal. If you can bend, like for example your pink, which I can't do, more than 90 degrees, so it should be up here, and if you can do it like more, that's like a sign of hypermobility. But you need different things that you will be able to do, not only one, but like multiple things, and this picture actually kind of shows it. Lots of people can do picture number 5. I can do it, for example. That doesn't mean I'm hypermobile, but mostly have like multiple types of things that you can do. You can understand if you're hyper flexible in your joints, it is easier to dislocate them. Okay, because there is a reason why we can't do certain movements. Imagine if you would force your hand to do a movement it can't do. Either you break your hand or you dislocate your hand. So you can kind of understand that these joints dislocate quite often, and it's mostly the larger joints that dislocate. For example, the shoulder, because the shoulder is actually the worst designed joint ever. Your patella, which is basically your knee nap, and your temporomandibular, which is this one. So like if you do like this and you open your mouth, you feel something that is kind of like, how do you call it? That's rolling here, and that's your temporomandibular joint, okay? Guys, do not underestimate, this can cause a really huge impact on the quality of life, and quality of life is referred to as QOL in medicine a lot. We'll talk about it a lot because it really is important to try and give as much quality of life to people that have chronic illnesses, because you can't cure them, you know. Another thing that I'm gonna quickly touch upon is that people with EDS type 3, we don't really know why, but they have some sort of thing that causes a neurological and autonomic dysfunction. Autonomic basically is a type of neurological system, and it causes something that is called POTS. That basically means postural orthostatic tachycardia syncope. I will explain what that is. It is that some people sometimes, that's how we need to read this thing. Some people sometimes might develop some symptoms, and that basically, those symptoms basically are when they stand up, for example. That's the easiest one. When they stand up fast, maybe you had that sometimes. You get a little bit dizzy and you're like, I don't really feel like I stood up too fast, you know? They get like a fall in their blood pressure, for example. But these people, what they get when they rise up really fast, their attack mode goes on, because you have two different types of neurological pathways. You have your attack mode and you have your rest mode. You know, when you're in attack, you're going to be like, okay, I'm the fight or flight mechanism. You know, you're going to run away, your heart's going to start pumping, you know. They get that flight stimulus. Their heart's going to start pumping. They can actually start getting headaches from it when they're standing up. Okay, you can also have problems surrounding your vascularization or your heart, because everything is tissue. Okay, and the most common ones are your aortic dilation. This is your aorta, this is your heart, as you can see here. Everything that is red has oxygen-rich blood. Everything that is blue has oxygen-poor blood. So this is all red. This is your aorta. This is a normal one where you can see my mouse. And this is one that is dilated. This can be very dangerous if the dilation like goes too far. You can understand it's tissue. And when you just put tissue like way too far apart, it can break. Mostly they have a mild dilatation, but just that mild dilatation over time can cause you lots of problems, okay? How do we diagnose it? This is a lot, okay? This is a lot. In hypermobile EDS, it is not a genetic diagnosis, it is a clinical diagnosis. That means that there are like so many criteria, okay? The only thing you need to remember is that there are 3 criteria, okay? Criteria number 1, general joint hypermobility. You already know what that is right now. Criteria number 2, I'm going to explain some more on in the next slide. And criteria number 3 is that there is no fragility of the skin or other connective tissue disorders, okay? So that you don't have that thing with your heart, for example, or you know, something with your eyes or anything like that, okay? So criteria number 2 is divided into A, B, and C because doctors like to make things very complicated. B is the easiest one. Someone in your family kind of has it, maybe, okay? You don't have to, but can, okay? C is also the most easy one. You have pain, you have chronic pain, you have frequent dislocations, or your joints are unstable without falling or without something. Most people, they have problems with their joint after trauma, after falling, after pushing something, after lifting something, whatever. But people with EDS, they do not have that. It's mostly atraumatic. Then we're going to jump back to A because that one is the most to digest. Okay, we already know they have soft skin. We already know their skin is mildly hyperextensible because you guys are 300 IQ chat and you listen to me. The 3A, which is the stretch marks. Then it's a word that you cannot pronounce. Piezogenics heel papilla. I have a nice picture of this. Abdominal hernia. I have a nice picture of this. Scarring. Prolapse. Again, prolapse of your uterus or your rectum. That can happen as well. Dental crowding. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures. These are the papillae that you can find on the heels. This is dental crowding. Basically means that your teeth, they're just like not so well aligned. It's not like the crooked teeth that children have and that's why they get like braces or stuff. This is like, it seems like they're crowded into a small place, like a smaller area than they're supposed to be. Okay, let's get into the interview. I'm gonna call her, see if she can be here. Let's see. Hi.
Hello.
Yay!
Let me mute your stream so I don't hear it twice.
Yeah, it's quite annoying.
It gets that way.
Okay, perfect. tell me something about yourself first. Like, just kind of like introduce yourself to the chat and to the stream.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Peg. I am a Twitch streamer and cosplayer. I live with my husband, 2 cats, and a bunny.
Oh, we also have cats and bunny.
I do. They're beautiful, and I love them. And I'm very bad at video games, but somehow I stream them anyway.
What are your favorite games?
We play a lot of Sea of Thieves. Like, so much Sea of Thieves. But like, I love Kingdom Hearts, Ori and the Blind Forest. The Final Fantasy VII remake was amazing. I went over my stream time like every time I played it because I was like, I need to see more.
So you've been here from the beginning. Thank you so much. If you would define EDS for yourself, just what it means to you, how would you define it?
Oh, that's a tricky question. For me personally, like I think isolation is a word I would use to describe it because it's very isolating. Like, the chronic pain is kind of the big thing for me, and the joint dislocations. So it becomes isolating because it stops me doing things that other people can do and that I want to do. And that's kind of the hardest thing about it, I think.
So I hear you say, like, isolating, you had joint dislocations, the chronic pain. Just first, for a second, the medical part, and afterwards I'm going to go a little bit to the mental part. If you say, like, I had joint dislocations, can you, like, give an example or how many you had in the past?
Oh, God. So a partial dislocation is called a subluxation. And I have those basically every day. Severe dislocations, probably like 20 or so, I think, in the last 10 years that have been really severe.
Yeah. Do you have like a certain predilection? Do you get like always shoulder dislocations or knee, or what is it that you get?
My knee's a very common issue. My collarbone is actually one. Like, this collarbone just goes out, and it, like, my collarbone goes out more than I do, basically, at this point.
Okay.
It's ridiculous, and it's also one of those things that's kind of hard to put back. So doctors are just like, they don't know what to do with you if you've done it. They're like, I don't know how to address this. I'm just going to leave it alone. Yeah. My collarbone, my husband tends to put back for me because I can't do it by myself. You need someone to push on it, otherwise it won't go. My knees, mostly, I just like, I walk on them until they go back in, which is painful, but it works.
I mean, it's insane. You can't imagine, like, I can't imagine that just happens, and you're sitting here, haha, I just dislocated my knee.
Basically, that's what it's like, though.
No. Oh, okay. So for you, dislocations are quite a big problem. Are there any other things that I talked about in the stream? You already said, like, those things in your heels that you have that, and
I didn't know that was. Yeah, I didn't know that was an EDS thing, so I've learned a thing now. The heel thing is okay. So I learned a thing today. Like, I do have, like, skin issues. My skin is very soft and also kind of fragile. I have some skin fragility. So if I, like, rub against anything, I am prone to breaking my skin. If I scratch, I'm prone to breaking my skin. Mostly that's just an annoyance. You know, it's like on the scale of big things. It's not a big deal. Chronic fatigue is a huge issue.
If you say, like, chronic pain, chronic fatigue is really, really hard for me. Like, if you would have to choose between two things, it's really difficult, which, like, your hypermobility and your dislocations, or your pain and your fatigue. Which one would you want to live with rather?
I would rather keep the dislocations if I got rid of the chronic pain and fatigue. Because the chronic pain is a constant there. It's always there. Whereas a dislocation, I dislocate it, it hurts for a while, and then it's better. But the chronic pain, there's always this low grade pain it's not even low grade a lot of the time. It's quite severe pain a lot of the time. And because it's just always there, it's so, like, invasive almost, I guess is the word, and it's just so that you can't deal with it, you know, like, you get to the point where it really wears you down.
Can you define for the people in chat what disabling means for you? Like, because for you, I think I have an idea what it means for you, but for other people, what that means.
So when at the time when it became very severe, I was studying theatre, like I said. I was in college. I was dancing every day. And in the space of a few weeks, I went from dancing regularly to not being able to get out of bed. Like, I couldn't even sit up without help because the pain was so severe. And it was such a short space of time. Like, there was like one night where I called my mother and I was like, "You're gonna have to come and pick me up because I can't walk. Like, I'm in so much pain." And then a couple of days later, I couldn't get out of bed by myself. So it was it was like this really sudden like drop of you're fine, and then no, you're not.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is like it's been actually quite a long time before you got your diagnosis and before you got your answer. And Bo in chat is asking you what your first thoughts were when you finally got diagnosed.
I was relieved. It felt like a lot of the it felt like I was finally being recognized for all the things that I'd always said were a bit weird. Like, I've always been very flexible. I can remember looking in the mirror and one of my collarbones would be higher than the other, and I would be like, "That's odd." Or I would move in a funny way and people would, like, teachers would shout at me and be like, "Don't be showing off, you're gonna hurt yourself." And it was like, but I'm not showing off, I can just bend like this. So it was actually really relieving. One of the things they confirmed is your arm span is meant to be approximately your height. So, like, from fingertip to fingertip, it's meant to be your height. Mine is 4 inches longer. And I'd spent years being like, "My arms are too long, they're really weird." And everybody was like, no, they're fine. And the doctor was like, "Your arms are too long, it's kind of weird." I was like, yes.
Yeah. So I hear like lots of relievement when you finally got the diagnosis. But then again, the diagnosis has also the connotation it's chronic. We're not going to be able to help you overcome this, so you're going to have to live with it.
Well, I think by that point, because it had been from when I was 17 to when I was 25, so that's what, 8 years?
Yeah.
Wow, math. So like over 8 years, they were just like, "There's nothing we can do for you." But knowing it was EDS made it so I was able to get more specialized help rather than them just being like, "You're in pain, we don't know why, live with it," which was very much the attitude I was receiving. So I was actually really lucky. There's a clinic in London that specializes in pain management treatments for people with EDS. So it's a group thing. You get like 10 people, and it's over the course of like 6 weeks, and you do 8 sessions, and they're all like 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. kind of sessions. So they're like they're big sessions. And they talked to us about, like, they explained more about EDS. They explained, like, they taught us some physical therapy stuff. They helped encourage us that it was okay to ask for help if we needed it, and to be able to stop and like check over our bodies, like do a mental check was one of the things they were like, "This is really important." To be like, okay, is everything where it's meant to be right now? Because when you're so used to stuff dislocating and being in weird positions, you just kind of, you don't notice. So if you examine it, and like take the time and stop and think, you can be like, "Oh, actually, no, my knee shouldn't be doing that thing. I'll fix it." That was a really important thing they like reinforced to us.
How is it for your family to live with the condition? So for your husband, for your child, or your parents, because obviously you had to lean on them, especially maybe a bit more in the beginning than now. Do you have any idea how it was for them, or did you talk about it?
So since I got diagnosed, my brother and my grandmother have diagnosis as well. I was the first one in the family to get one, and my mum's going for a diagnosis. But I know my mother found it very, very hard because, like I said, I was 17 and I went from this very bubbly, outgoing teenager doing like dance and theatre, and I was always out of the house, like I was never at home, to suddenly, she knew where I was in bed 24 hours a day. She knew exactly where it was. And I know she found it very hard to see that change and then have doctors not understand that I wasn't making this up, I wasn't faking it, I was genuinely suffering. I think now it's easier. I don't live with her, I live with my husband now, so I think it's easier on my mum now, but I know she does still worry. And she checks up on me a lot, so she's really great with that. My husband is just generally fantastic and supportive. I know that there are times when my pain gets very, very bad, where he gets very distressed, which is completely understandable. Like, I get distressed if he's in pain. And there are times when my pain is really bad and there's nothing he can do, and he's like, I don't know what to do to help you. What can I do? Yeah. And I'm like, there's nothing, just give me a hug. You know, like proper, like, dramatic. Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, a lot of people will say, oh, if you have a disability, you know, you shouldn't have a child if you have something that's genetic that you could pass on. But on the same mindset, as far as my mother was concerned, she was completely healthy when she had me. And then I was born with all these conditions, and she had no idea. But at least with me, if I have a child who turns out to have EDS, I'll be able to support them from the very beginning. And they won't get to the point I reached. The reason mine got so bad was because I had no one there who was able to support in the correct way. So if I had that support, it's entirely possible that my pain wouldn't have got as bad, my dislocations wouldn't have got as bad, because I would have done the like the physical therapy and stuff beforehand to help it out. Yeah. So you're saying, actually, because you have it and you kind of lived with it and all of that, you would actually be able to care better because you just have better information about everything. It's a very interesting standpoint, because from my profession, I deal with this a lot. You know, parents that have disabilities, or questions surrounding babies with disabilities, because that's when they come to us, because we have to kind of like follow them up. Because it's actually quite easy these days to try and fix everything, you know? You can do a test and you can see if your child will have Down syndrome, for example, or if you're like, it can go really, really far. But I always say, you know, even healthy parents can get sick children, and you don't know that. And actually, the way that you explain it so beautifully is like, you know, I have this, I know what it is, and I can help my child if they have it, because it's not a 100% guarantee that they will get it. They might be lucky, because obviously you hope that they don't have it. I think in girls it's about a 50-50 chance, and in boys it's less than that, because it's much less common in boys, because boys are so lucky.
Yeah, the Y chromosome, oh damn. There's one thing you haven't touched upon, but I think you told me that you have the POTS.
I do, yeah. They suspected it, and the test was inconclusive.
You did the tilted table test, or?
I did, yeah. And I was unfortunately having a really good day that day, where I wasn't even remotely dizzy. And as soon as I woke up that morning, I was like, the test's going to be inconclusive. Yeah. They're never going to get an answer today, because today's a good day. Yeah. It tends to be very hot weather triggers it. If it's really hot, there are days where I cannot stand up when it's hot. I just crawl. I'm like, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to crawl. It's fine. The cat walks along the floor looking at me like, why are you crawling? Yeah. You're weird, you know? Yeah. So yeah, there are some days where it's better and some days where it's worse, which I think can be said for most chronic conditions. Yeah. Mostly it's more of an inconvenience than anything, luckily. Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing too, but
can you explain the feeling that comes with it? Because for me that was quite hard to kind of explain. Of course, the heart races and stuff like that. How does it feel?
So, it's really interesting, because I also have anxiety, and so sometimes I have a POTS episode and I can't tell if it's that or an anxiety attack. Because they create the same feeling of like shakiness and heart racing and breathlessness. When it's very, very bad, I get very dizzy, and my my vision can just go black on me sometimes. And I've luckily learned better how to deal with it, so I'm actually very good about lying down before it gets to that point now. Whereas in the past I would just be like, oh, I'm fine, it's not a big deal. So I would just now I just lay down on the floor and put my feet in the air until like everything regulates again.
How does it go with working? Is that something that you can do or absolutely not?
It's a no. I streaming is my job, I guess.
I totally understand.
But the thing with streaming is because it's so flexible, if I need to cancel at the last second, I can, which I could not do in a regular job. So like in a regular job, you can't just be like, I can't come in today because I can't get out of bed. They're never gonna get that. There's a real lack of support for chronic illnesses, and I get businesses have to be productive and stuff, but it's still a pain. So because I have so many days where I just can't do anything at all, I can't work a proper job, so streaming has very much become my job. Your cat just jumped up behind you.
Oh yeah, she sometimes flies too. Like sometimes she flies up this cute thing, and then I don't know. Yeah, but yes, I mean, I always say content creation or streaming is one of the most beautiful things, but one of the hardest jobs that I've ever done, because doing med school was way easier, because you just know, I'm gonna study and I'm gonna ace the test, and in 6 years I'll be a doctor. But with streaming, you can work really hard or you can work really little and have the same results. So it is really, really hard. I get it. I found this talk really, really refreshing, and you put so much insight and everything, and I'm always happy to see when the system didn't fail the patients, I know you still battle stuff on a daily basis, but I'm also seeing very very nice stuff in you, in your story, and how you developed and how you're trying to deal with things in a healthy way, even though a lot of times you might not feel healthy or you might not feel as well. And I'm also very aware about the fact that maybe right now is a good day, and we always see you in a good day. Your Instagram pictures are on your good day, your Twitch stream is on your good day, but we don't see what's behind when you can't and when you're having pain and all of that. So it's also really, really important to stress that, EDS is not just being like elastic woman, but also like very, very, very very debilitating at some point.